Hello and welcome to the Tarkus Zone. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about the game RivenWorld. It's in pre-production. The dev team has a live stream every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. That'd be my time, which is nice, 9 p.m. And this was the fifth one in their series of live streams. And I imagine they're going to be doing these live streams every Wednesday at 9 p.m. until they release their demo or until they release a beta alpha access to it. I'm just going to hit play on here. And again, with this video, I'm just going to pinpoint some of the key things that we saw in this stream that was added to the game. And I'm going to fast forward here. So as we see things, the Tarkus Zone mind's going to have to remind itself what it is we were talking about when we... So at this point, I'm going to just shell it back here just for a second. At this point, I'd ask the question... I'm going to maximize this screen. There's no need for you guys to be blinded by the white there on the edges. So I asked... Can you walk through trees? And the trees have a hitbox, because I noticed he wasn't going near the trees, like he was avoiding them for some reason. And so I asked, can you walk through it? So obviously the bigger trees you cannot. They have a large hitbox. You got to kind of skirt around them. But the smaller trees, I guess the smaller trees have a hitbox too. Now we talked briefly also about an item regrow in your house. So for example, if Tarkus puts down a platform, a 20 by 20 square platform, and I do it over a forest, right? And then I build walls around it. So envision this almost like a greenhouse I've created, but it's all brick walls, top, bottom, whatnot, and I've got a door. And I do that over a forest area. Will those trees regrow if I continue to cut them down? And I guess at that point I could remove the bottom and not need the bottom anymore, because then it would just be an enclosed greenhouse. And the ingenious answer they have is, Tarkus, we've got a shovel, so that if you don't want those trees to regrow, you just dig up the root. It's like, perfect. It's like, yeah, that just answers all the pitfalls that I had around that topic. Tarkus is thinking, I've got some pitfalls around garbage growing in my goddamn house in some games. And the developer never can fix the fact that I got a sycamore tree in the middle of my living room. And it's like, why does this thing keep on growing? And they keep on saying, cut it down. Okay, so I'm going to get into the game world and cut the damn tree down is the first thing I do. It was almost an inside joke of, let me go into my living room today and cut the tree down. So this game, they pretty much have said, Tarkus, here's a shovel. Here's a tool in the game that will allow you to remove the root, and then that tree will no longer ever spawn again. And that comes back to the question is, can you replant things? And you can in this game. So we know by the other stream that they had is you'll be able to put seeds in the ground. I'm assuming you'll be able to find nuts or maple tree nuts or whatever type of, or saplings. A lot of games have saplings. It's part of the foraging system. So if you're foraging on the ground, and I know this game's going to have a foraging system that Tarkus found a sapling, and it's an oak sapling. And if Tarkus plants it, it becomes an oak tree over a certain amount of time. So in the forage system, usually incorporates sapling finding or seed finding. We were talking about the forge there, and if the forge is going to give a heat effect off, and the answer is yes. So the items are going to... Well, the items are going to, if it's burning, they're going to have a heat effect so that in the summertime you can get overexhausted by being enclosed near a heat source. And in the winter, you are protected from the actual, in survival games. I asked the question because in most survival games there are heat effects. There are overwhelming heat effects in some survival games. Whereas if I put 9 of these little gems in my house, light them all up, Tarkus walks inside and 2 seconds later Tarkus is dead. And Tarkus can't get back into his house until one of the damn furnaces go out because Tarkus has made it a goddamn hellscape inside his house. So I don't know if those effects harshly are going to be in this game. Maybe I got 9 of them in my house, and yeah, I get close to them, they warm me up. but having 9 of them in my house, does it make it 900 degrees in my house? I don't know if they're going to do that or not. It'd be kind of interesting. Smoke inhalation, if I put 9 campfires in my house. I haven't seen Tarkus all day. Well, he's dead from carbon monoxide in his house. I go by his window every once in a while and wave to him. The poor bastard's tits up. But those effects could be incorporated in this type of game. All kidding aside, you can incorporate hazardous effects if you're not putting a chimney in. You know what I mean? So I asked about the well. They're going to allow you to put the well down as just an asset that you can dip water out of. Worm Online did a good way of doing it. I'm not going to say better than them, but I'm going to say a kind of, they had one of those fork gouging rods, I guess is what you call it. So it was an actual thing you got in the game. So, and you got the rod, and then you'd walk around the map. And what the map developer did was put these aquifers areas underneath locations of the world. So you took one of these gouging things, and then it would tell you, oh, there's a water source right below me, and that is where you'd put your well. But the water source underneath had a volume. Well, let's just put it as a hit box. Say it's got 1,000 hit points, and every time you draw water from it, it takes 1 less hit point until the aquifer is empty. And then you'd have to then what we'd have to do is then, once you've used up that water source, you'd go dowsing to get another water source, put another well down, and then what was nice is you could claim the land in those games, so you're protecting that aquifer from other people dipping in, or you could give permissions to people on that plot to use your well, but it also allowed you to put as many wells as you wanted over that aquifer. So what you could do is Tarkus could claim the land, put 30 wells in. Yeah, I'm going to deplete that source just like any other source in the world. And I'm just going to do it quicker with all the wells and pulling the water, because also the system in the game only allowed you to draw so much water. So, and some of the water wells were automatic, so they were filling basins for you. But eventually you would take the water out of the land. There were locations on the map where the aquifers would replenish. So during the seasons, like springtime, you'd get like 20% of the aquifer back, or whatever. And then, but if you're pulling more than what the aquifer can do, so you would know that this aquifer, this well, every spring, you'd be able to use again until you depleted it. If you didn't draw more than what it was filling each year, then you never depleted it. Okay, so it all comes down to how detailed they're going to be with the water system in this game. Am I going to need water to plant, to fertilize my land, or to make sure that my crops will grow? Will I be able to dig when they pixelate the map, could I dig ditches to make water channels? I don't know how important water is going to be in this game, but those are just some thoughts in my head. It could just be what they've got here would be fine. Just put a well down, and that well's got water until the end of time, until Armageddon. Some big meteor hits the planet and destroys it. It just will give you water, the magical well that gives you water all the time. It doesn't, at that point, you really haven't made water in a survival game. That makes water easy, right? Just like if you go get food, you got to go work for it, you got to grow it. But if you have a survival game that has water elements, but you make water out of a magic well that gives you water forever, then there needs to be some planning involved in water management in a survival game. And either way it goes, whatever. I'm going to get back to what he was talking about. They put carts in the game so you can move your stuff around. If you, the beautiful part about this is I can just rewind it a little bit. So if you look at some of this thing, they put a guillotine for role play purposes. I get that. That's kind of funny. But I don't think they've got a capture criminal system in this game. Whereas, if I go around killing people for the sake of killing people, there's been a lot of games that have a criminal, like in Black Desert I'll go back to Arcade. Like say Arcade. Let's say somebody starts PvPing me and I never attack back. I just stand there and take it until the guy kills me. If I've never attacked back, that guy gets flagged as an outlaw. And anyone who kills that player gets an outlaw bounty, like it was like gold. And then the player that died doesn't respawn in their normal respawn place. They get respawned into a jail that they can't get out of. And that jail could either be run by NPCs, or that jail could be run by an in-player. The guy that you killed could have you in there until he decides to let you out, or the game provides, like in Arc Age, what it was is you'd go to the jail, they'd give you a trial, you know, and I'm not talking about anything complicated here, just, you know, you go to the jail and then you might just be stuck in that jail for X amount of game time. And there was no way around it, because that was the outcome in Arc Age, is once the jury said you were, you know, Tarkus, you're a murderer, you go to jail. And then they would actually have people give you, you know, give them this many minutes. And the game would just give you, if it was your first criminal offense, you'd have like 10 minutes where you had to sit there. If you did it like 3 or 4 times in a 2-week window, it would be an hour. And there was no way to get out. So I don't know if that is practical in a game like this, an outlaw system, but that was kind of how they did it in those games. I'm just kind of just talking here, but I saw the guillotine. They said they did it for role play purposes. So hopefully that works out if they, you know, if they get somebody willing to play the stooge. They talked about the claim system, talked about a couple pitfalls and whatnot. They got to have a permission system on here, because what it is they were saying that if I put a claim down, I build this structure on the claim, and some guy walks up to me and goes, I'm forming a guild, Tarkus, you want to be part of my guild? And I say yes. Once I be part of that guild, my land claim automatically becomes ownership of the guild. So everything I did up to that point is now the ownership of the guild. And that guy who just invited me could kick me from the guild, and now he owns my land. So I was like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense to me. You know, I would say that I understand the pitfalls here. Like, for example, I claim this, and the rest of the guild builds around me, and we're nicey, and one day a guildmate pisses me off. And I was like, I want to be out of your guild. And then you got somebody in the center who's pissed off with everybody, and he's not in your guild anymore, and he's just there, and he's driving everybody nuts, and he owns a part of the bigger picture, and it gets bitter. Well, I had said at that point, why don't the guild just get together, go in and destroy the guy's shrine, and problem solved. So you kick them, but you know, the ownership is not the guild. The guy still has permission. You have ultimate permission on the land. So if you join the guild, yes, the guild, you can give permission that the guild can use it, but you still have ownership of the land. And if you leave the guild and say, screw you guys, you still have ownership, but there's nothing to stop that guild that's surrounding you to walk into your house, destroy your shrine, and they're like, okay, good luck, dude. You know, go find another place to land. I mean, that was the way I was kind of looking at it. I just don't want I want to be part of a guild, and I want to work with people, but I know how human nature is. And in the end of it, if they want to take my shit, they're going to need to work for it. They're not going to be able to say Tarkus is a jerkhead and we're kicking him today just for the shits and giggles of it. They were talking about the king influence. I would think that was going to be a different system of like overlaying as the king takes, you know, if the king takes ownership of a particular region of the map, and depending on whatever system they got, he's got influence. And that influence that the person has, if my land happens to be within that king's influence, they talked about a consumption rate of having to feed your shrine, like almost like a taxation. That makes total sense to me. So that if a tyrant takes over the area and he kicks that up to 100%, and you're spending the entire day just feeding your shrine to keep your claim, you're eventually going to say, you're going to pack your crap up and go somewhere else, because that seems like what the guy wants to do. Or you got to get a bunch of people together and get that guy out of power so that you can get the tax rate back to a normal tax rate. So that kind of adds a little bit to it. Let's just see what they do with this. And if Tarkus gets in here and thinks it's total horseshit, I'll say something, obviously. I've played enough games where I understand the pitfalls of going either way. Now, here's a theory that not a theory, but what I've seen in other games is they have a newbie area. So when you first log into the world, this newbie area, let's say it's 1,000 square meters by 1,000 square meters. Anyone who builds in this newbie area can put a shrine down. But that shrine's maximum distance is 24 by 24 or 12 by 12. So if I put my shrine in this designated area, my maximum size will be one claim. And I can't claim another next to me, and I can't claim another on that protected area. But as soon as I go outside that area and the rest of the world's available to me, and that rest of the world's PvP, if I drop a shrine in a PvP zone, that newbie area shrine disappears. So you can't have both. So you either choose to stay on a small piece of land and play your life like a Care Bear and help with your guild and just play in your little whatever the game's going to give you, or you take a risk and go out to the PvP world and start putting claims down and have your stuff at risk. But you can't have a shrine in both locations. So I can't decide to go to PvP and always have a place to squirrel my stuff here. You could have a friend maybe that has a house that's decided, or a second account, I guess, is another way you could do it. Is you take, if you want to spend more money on the game, you'd have or your wife's account. She owns the Care Bear lot, and that's where you squirrel your important stuff. I guess that's a workaround. But if you've got 100 people on your server, that might work. But then again, you might not need a designated area for Care Bears, because if you get in a good guild, the PvPers will take care of the Care Bear person, right? Because you're like, okay, Tarkus just likes to build crap and build. He likes to build knives all day long. Leave Tarkus alone. And the guild kind of helps protect Tarkus when Tarkus is trying to do his thing out into the PvP world. That kind of works too, because the team with the larger numbers can almost dictate terms with the other people on the server. Let's work something out here. We've got crafters. Can we leave the crafters alone? We've got PvPers. Now, there was a game that I played where a guild could designate only 3 people as non-PvP combatants. So that was another thing within the guild system, that a guild could have as many people as you wanted, but you only could give 3 people a designated tag saying that this person, as long as they're tagged in the guild designated, they were PvE in regards to anything. But the other thing about it is, if I did something affected a PvP player, it would automatically remove that protection from me until the guild master reset it 24 hours later. So like say Tarkus is protected under this system. I'm one of 3 people out of 100 guildmates that have the protection. I go around the world and do my stuff. No one bothers me. But I see a PvPer over there, and I'm going to just try to jump him, right? So I go and I do anything hostile to the guy. I go PvP right off the bat. And I cannot get that protection again for 24 hours. And that was one way that you could balance it. And I know, there's a few pitfalls in doing it that way, but that kind of helps you protect some of your Care Bearers. I mean, anyway, they do it full PvP, and I know the game's going to have a bunch of add-on mechanisms, so this will get all worked out. Either way they do it, I think will be good. I think it will work out well. I think anything can be massaged in a way that the consensus likes it, because you're never going to solve every pitfall when it comes to a claiming system. You're just not going to be able to do that, especially in a PvP world. Now, they talked about the claim shrine as you take more claim, or more. See, they got multiple claims. And as you can see here, as he's moving around, they partitioned the claims, pre-portioned it out. So, for example, while he's got the claim on this land, this would be, the green section would be what you'll gain. But you can put multiple down, and the more you put down, I was unsure, because they talked about it growing as your land grow. I'm not really sure how it's going to work. My thoughts were, like, for example, I'm going to go back here, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to pause this right where I want to have my thought on this. Just give me a second here. Oh, where is it? All right, right there is where I want to be. So let's just pause it. So my thought was, when they were talking about destroying a shrine to gain the land, Now, you can see that you need to put the shrine down to claim the land, but you'll need to put multiple shrines down to claim multiple plots of land. And I know we were just seeing, oh, here they are up here. So right there, you can see that he claimed that section, and he's highlighting this section. My question, I didn't ask it, is, if I destroy that shrine there, do I now own that land? Now I freed up that land? Or do I need to destroy all three of them to free it up as a group? That was what I didn't understand, because if I wanted to systematically take somebody's property, I would go around and systematically remove the shrines around that person's property. But by removing the additional shrines, is the land still protected until the last shrine is dead that was linked to them? So I wasn't really sure about the answer on that. Is, you would think that you have a shrine per plot. If that shrine goes, that plot now is open for somebody to drop their own shrine on. And will there be a delay in the shrine dropping? So for example, if I walk up to this guy's shrine and kill it, that land now becomes claimable. Is there going to be a window, like a 10-minute window, for me to be able, or just a cooldown or a 24-hour timer before that land can be claimed again? I'm not sure. Or could it be immediately claimed? As soon as I destroy that shrine, I got a guy next to me dropping a shrine down, and at that point, you would own the building. So if you systematically broke into the doors, did as minimal damage as you could to the structure, minimum, then you destroyed the shrine, put your shrine down, you now own that building, right? You did minimum damage, you could put the doors in. I'm assuming that whatever crates, boxes, and loot that's in there, you'll still have to break through. Like if someone's got a loot box in there with gold in it, that doesn't belong to you. So the building in the claim belongs to you, but the assets within the building, I imagine, won't belong to you. So it's not like I can claim your land and now I've got all access to all the vault. I would think you'd still have to break into the boxes, which you obviously can do. So there's some questions on that, because you could take the land and then the guy who owned the land could run right back in before you get through all the loot boxes, kill your thing you just, and replant their own shrine, and then get the doors back up before you got through the loot boxes. That was the beauty of some games, is guilds would go right for the shrine. But then they still had to work on the loot boxes to get loot if they were staying or if they were going, or whatever they were doing. And the other thing about it is, in some games, they put a distance delay on building. So if there was somebody within PvP of you, you couldn't build an item. So you would actually have to be outside, you would have to be in a passive zone before you could put an item down. This stopped people from just planting doors every time. So I have a team of mine and we break the door down. You got some guy there just replaces it. We break the door down, some guy just replaces it. Guy breaks the door down, some guy. So you just stand there all night and they never run out of resource, because their resource crate is inside the building, right? So they had put some delays on how you could replace that door. So if I broke the door down, there was at least a 10-second delay before another door could be placed, allowing at least invaders to get inside and try to stop the, I'm just going to place another door bullshit. You know what I mean? Or you have to have a timer on the build. Here we've been seeing, I'll play the video here. So we've been seeing them just place these objects. So when it comes to the door, maybe instead of saying there's a 10-second delay, there's an animation that has to occur for 30 seconds that you're building the door, so that somebody can knock you out of that animation. So when you're building the door, somebody can PvP knock you, and then you stop building that door. So because right now this is like Fortnite, just poof, 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 poof. And if they give these doors some massive hit points, raiding somebody's castle is going to be crazy hard. All right, so let's just move forward. I don't want to make this video too lengthy. They went over to build some stuff here. I was getting him some heat on his building. I asked him to step in the fire. They don't have the burn effect yet. I was hoping that they would have the burn effect so that I could see the animation around there. Then I asked him, could you build me a bunch of fires? And he probably thought that was a crazy request, but honestly, I was asking him to do that to see what the server lag was going to be. When you have ambient movement, like in fires, especially in fire games, there's a lot of games that won't let you put fireplaces close together because they know the frames per second get all screwed up and there's lag. And in some PvP games, what we would do is we would drop 100 fires in one spot. And then we would stand there, and anyone who was engaging us in PvP was taking a disadvantage because they were rubber banding because of all the frame rate issues around having the fires so close together. And we were using a mechanism in the game, I think it was crossbows at the time. We would just sit there and crossbow. And we could just rack up deaths all night because people weren't realizing that we were taking advantage of the delay that the fireplaces were giving us in the game. So people would be like, how? I mean, it's like all of a sudden I run up to you guys and I'm automatically dead. I couldn't do nothing. It's like, yeah, we made it that way. We're putting all the damn fires in one spot. So he starts working on this building. And, you know, I don't know, one side of it looked like a blow-up doll and a face of a blow-up doll. And the other side of it looked like Batman. And I don't know if he was going for that. What he was going for. Okay, so I'm going to pause it there. You know, look at the fascia here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it kind of looks weird how it's done it. And this side, I don't know if he gets to this side in this picture here. His friend there, his developer, come on, that just looks like a blow-up doll face. And his buddy next to him's got some sort of Japan shrine to the gods. I mean, it's like, talk about the wrong side of the tracks here, dude. I mean, as I said in my video, during their video, I mean, if I was this guy over here with this posh building, I would kind of push those fireplaces closer to his building and burn that sucker to the ground just to get my view back, because that's not very skillful. Now, I'm just kind of be playful here. I don't want to give him too much crap. I mean, some people can't build for crap, and I've seen video games that there was one guy who would build in the game, and every one of his damn buildings looked like a giant penis. And I was like, dude, are you? And he was going for mushrooms. He had this they were blue. So he was building these Smurf houses. But we would always, and he would take offense if you said something to him about it. And so we all would have this inside joke that we're going to Cockknocker's house, because his houses look like a bunch of blue cocks coming out of the ground. And we always have to keep a straight face when we were dealing with the guy, because he felt that his building technique was the best he could do. He was like one of those people that were doing his best, and he doesn't like to be crapped on for it. But it was like, dude, you're not seeing what we're seeing. And thank God that game didn't allow people to troll him to put big sacks underneath these things, because at least with this game you're protected from that. There are games where I would be able to walk onto his property and put these big round items next to the base of these things and really piss the guy off. But that game had a good claiming system. But it was like, dude, I know you're doing the best you can, so we kind of just left it alone. But it was always an inside joke. And there are buildings that people make in games that they make to be nasty. In his case, he wasn't trying to be that way. That was just his build. He was making Smurf Village. What else can I say about this? They don't have a roofing system quite yet. They're using the stairs to do the roofing system. So that's fine for now. I imagine they'll have some nice models for the roofing system. I mean, once he puts the top on here, this side of the house looks like Batman. It looked like the face of Batman. So I don't know if he had Batman or he just didn't. Oh, there it is right there. Oh, he's got his screen up. But it looks like Batman because that section down here kind of looks like the Batman face that you see in Lego. So I don't know. I don't know what he was going. You know, the reason why I kind of making a kind of a thing of it. Before I build anything, before I put anything down, I always have something in my head on what I want it to look like. You know, I don't put pen to paper until I know what I'm going to write. You know what I mean? And I imagine in this game, when you make a mistake, I assume that you'll have a hammer to destroy the items, but I don't know if you'll take a D grade value on those items. So for example, let's say it takes 8 stone to make one of these blocks, but I put the block in the wrong location and I destroy it. Do I only get 4 blocks back? Because that might be how they do a mistake. You know, don't do mistakes, because mistakes will cost you 50% of the resources. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they're going to tackle that. But overall, the stream went well. They showed the new workbenches. They showed the fire. They showed these buildings being made. I didn't see much lag. I didn't see anything that red flagged me, like, you know, what the hell's going on here? You know, the sunset here in this picture, the fire's moving. They showed the distance rendering. They did that correctly, because I was going to ask them, please, after putting those fires on, please back up so that I can see how the pixelation happens between the ambient fire movement and you rendering the product in. Some games get that, I think they're running Unreal Engine 5, so that shouldn't be a problem. Some of the older games you've got, the rendering, it became almost like the server was hiccuping. They did talk about the automation in, I should give this some credit before I button up my video, and I promise I'm going to button up my video really soon. They did give these nice detailed explanation of these doors, the portcullis and the iron door. I'm assuming they're all going to have a different hit point value. He talked about the windmill. The windmill will automatically break your grain up. I'm assuming they'll have ovens in this game, different stages of cooking. An oven, from a campfire to an oven, to a bread maker, pizza oven. I don't know. Obviously they'll have an oven that will help you process foods. That makes sense. And those processing of the foods will be a timer. The question being is the queue system, how that's going to work. If I put ingredients in my oven, can I only make one of the items? But if I pack that oven with 1,000 ingredients, can I just have the oven kick out bread until I get back and there'll be 50 bread there? I don't know how they're going to do that. They did talk about the payment on the node system, that, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, that the more land you claim, the more that's going to cost you. So it's not like you can go claim infinite amount of land and then the upkeep cost will be the same. No, more land you claim, the more upkeep cost you're going to deal with. Well, that's really it. I think I got most of it here. I think, they're going to have the monsters and fighting, hopefully in the next, and the movement of animals, hopefully in the next video. They did talk about that. I'm really excited to see that. I'm really excited to kind of see how the working stations work. They're going off the RuneScape model. That's how the system's going to work, like old RuneScape did. And I'm looking forward to it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I didn't offend too many people with my salty language tonight. But I thought this video kind of deserved some of my thoughts, and they were fresh in my head, and here we're at. Well, thank you for joining me. This has been The Darkest Zone.